Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is ScottReisch. Today we're going to talk about a nurse who has been arrested for impregnating his incapacitated patient. Apparently, creepy Jake Patterson, the man accused of kidnapping Jamie Claus, could get a date in high school, but he was just as weird and creepy back then. We have another disappearance of a young woman in Kentucky. Let's talk about the exotic dancer who shot her sugar daddy when the relationship ended. And then, how about that gay porn star who was just charged with extortion while asking for $500,000? Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is ScottReisch. Thank you for watching. We appreciate that you tune into our channel. We know there are lots of other options out there, so the fact that you have chosen us, we greatly appreciate it. If you like the channel, please subscribe. If you like the video, please hit the like. Please leave a comment. It is appreciated. We are always trying to improve. And hopefully, you will agree that the sound here today is much better. Why, you may ask? Because I did it. I didn't rely on anyone else to do it. I didn't rely on highly trained professionals. I did it myself. I figured it out. And hopefully, we are good from here on out. That's my goal. I have been embarrassed by some of the sound quality that has gone out, and I believe that we have fixed it. So, let's talk about several things that are on the docket today. All right. So we have a nurse in Arizona, and it's unclear whether this nurse is an RN or, for example, a certified nursing assistant. But either way, he's in big trouble. He is 36 years old, and his name is Mr. Nathan Sutherland. Now, Mr. Sutherland was responsible for the care of a 29-year-old patient at the Hacienda Healthcare facility in Phoenix. And his patient has been disabled since she has been 3 years old. My understanding from what I have read is that she is completely incapacitated. She could not consent to any kind of sexual contact or intercourse. Well, to the shock of the Hacienda Healthcare facility, this patient gave birth to a baby boy on December 29th. I'm not sure why no one noticed that she was pregnant. It seems somewhat obvious, but maybe this is one of the few people that had access to her. Who knows? I'm kind of surprised the family didn't notice, but once again, who knows? Hacienda Healthcare facility, however, may want to contact their insurance carrier because I think they've got some serious problems on the civil side, just like Mr. Nathan Sutherland has serious problems on the criminal side. He was arrested and made a $500,000 bond, which is curious to me. First of all, that a bond of $500,000 was set. It seems maybe perhaps even a little low, but even more interesting is the fact that he made it. Now, I'm not going to say that I know how exactly the bond system works in Maricopa County in Arizona, but normally if you post a professional bond, you have to have collateral of some $500,000 in case you skip bond and don't show up for court. Additionally, on top of that, if you post it through the bail bonds person, they usually want 10% of that bond so that they have their fees, and that's kind of their payment for risk and to make sure that you are responsible if you don't show up. Mr. Sutherland has been charged with one count of vulnerable adult abuse and one count of sexual assault. And he has to wear electronic home monitoring while he is on bond. Seems reasonable. A little surprised he actually made it out, but you never know. Maybe Mr. Sutherland has resources. Maybe his family has resources that they can do that. I don't know a lot of people that can post a $500,000 bond, but you never know. We're going to be following that. There's an interesting case there on the civil side as well. Nursing home abuse is something that's obviously shouldn't be tolerated in any way. And regardless of the background checks that they will have professed that they looked into Mr. Sutherland, his background, and gave no indication or anything along those lines, it just doesn't matter. That nursing home facility is responsible for anything that their people do or fail to do. And in this particular case, he failed to be a good human being. He failed to properly care for this disabled person, and ultimately they're going to be responsible for what he did do, which is impregnate a woman. That's outrageous. Even me, a member of the community, I am shocked and outraged. So, last week we talked about the Jamie Claus case. Now, for those who are not familiar with the Jamie Claus case, this Jake Patterson individual has been arrested for the murder of Miss Claus's parents and the kidnapping of her as well. She ultimately escaped when he went out of this house, and he's now in custody and will probably remain there for the rest of his life. Now, somebody has come forward and stated that they actually dated Mr. Patterson when she was in high school. She's only identified by the name of Brianna, and that they apparently dated for about 4 months, and she described her boyfriend at that time, Mr. Patterson, as, quote, a new level of creepy, end quote. Apparently, he was into experimenting with animals and was completely infatuated with roadkill. What other individual pops to your mind when you think about that kind of behavior? Okay? Can you think? Do you recall who it was? Dahmer. Hello. That guy had a little collection of all this little roadkill in his shed, started at a young age, just weird, it's creepy, and you can't, I just don't get it. There are people out there from an early age that present with signs of just real unusual conduct, unusual behavior, okay? It is not normal to be completely, what's the word I'm looking for? Excited, infatuated about death, to be experimenting with animals to see what's going on. Jeffrey Dahmer did that stuff. He had a collection. He would pick them up, and it was just weird. It was creepy. And then, lo and behold, here we go. We got this Jake Patterson guy who kidnaps Miss Claus, kills her parents because he wants to, and shaves his head, thinks about it, has stolen license plates so he doesn't get picked up. Or it's just weird. Obviously, he's probably of perhaps at least average, maybe above average intelligence because he was thinking about it. But it is just the type of situation where you know that someone's acting weird and creepy, and why are we not necessarily just kind of keeping an eye on what this guy does and where he goes? And I am the biggest proponent of civil liberties, and the police shouldn't do it. But it doesn't mean that, hey, when something weird doesn't happen, you can say, hey, there's this guy over here. He's kind of weird. You may just want to go take a look. Maybe just go knock on the guy's door. It is just, I don't know. There's something about that case. There's something about that guy. And, a couple of the comments thought that I was being insensitive based upon his looks, saying, that I think he looked, a little creepy or something along those lines. But that's my opinion. Okay. There's just something that creeps me out about that guy. Apparently creeped him out about his girlfriend too, but so be it. So I also quickly want to talk about, this is not really on the docket, but I just want to let you know, it has been a busy, busy week here for me in my law practice. I was traveling last week doing an investigation down in Arizona, and I was able to spend kind of the weekend in the Sedona area. That's where some of the witnesses were, and it was very, very nice. So Sedona, Arizona people, absolutely love your town. You have a great little airport right on top of that plateau you can just fly out of. It was spectacular. Then we come back, have a couple days in the office. Why? Because I had arguments before the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals on a case that has an interesting issue regarding the speedy trial. And once the government indicts you, at what time do they have to bring you to court? Well, in this particular case, my client was pending a murder charge, and they decided, oh, we'll just wait. And then it was really too late. And when we won the homicide case, they're like, oh, now what should we do? Now what should we do? And so we moved to dismiss on speedy trial grounds because one has a right to a speedy public trial. So that will be interesting to see how that comes out at the 10th Circuit. And then we had to go to Telluride, Colorado. It's located in San Miguel County in the state here of Colorado. It is a very unfortunate case. It's involving I can't get into specifics because obviously the case is still pending. We've even had a change of venue granted because it's a small community and everybody knows everybody. When I mean everybody knows everything. When I fly into the airport, the staff there at the airport all greet me and said, "Hey, Scott, how's it going? Is your case not over yet?" Nope, it sure isn't. And so we've been moved out of there, but all the motions and everything are going there. And we've been trying to keep out, for lack of a better term, junk science. And so we've been in motions hearings for the last couple of weeks. And I can't really talk about it, but if you were to look at the Telluride newspapers there, they have some very detailed, in fact, I think they have the transcripts up of all the at least the preliminary hearing. And it's not exactly what everybody thought it was going to be at the beginning. It was a little unusual, but it's not what the authorities thought it was, and now they're trying to fix it. So it's going to be really interesting. And, we've had a really good judge thus far. I think she gets it. And, of the legal issues in the case. And, they're trying to bring in some technology that has never been admitted in court here in Colorado or anywhere in the United States in a criminal matter. So it was some interesting issues, and my associate and the co-counsel for one of the other co-defendants did an amazing job, and I look forward to hopefully being able to talk to you about that as well sometime soon. So the next matter on the docket is we have another missing mom. And this is a little more unusual. This one involves a woman from Lexington, Kentucky, and her name is Savannah Spurlock. She's 22, and apparently they have surveillance footage of her leaving a bar in Lexington, Kentucky with two men. Apparently, the police know who these two men are. They've interviewed these two men. They've even got search warrants to go in and look at these individuals' residence, and I think one lives with his mother as well. But as of right now, all the two men that she is alleged to have left with and one other have been interviewed, but nothing has taken place in the sense of she hasn't been charged. And, this is rather similar to the Patrick Frazee matter here in Colorado. All right, is she gone? Did she just say, I had enough? I don't know. She's a mother of four. She's 22. She's a mother of four. Apparently, she just had two twins recently, and, she was out seen leaving a bar. So it's kind of situation where I hope she's okay. Nobody's doing anything, and everybody is given the presumption of innocence as it relates to these other two gentlemen. But how do you know? Did somebody just say, screw it, I'm off to Tahiti, and I'm going to go sell and rent jet skis on a beach somewhere? Or did something bad happen to them? Sometimes we'll never know for sure, but it certainly makes it more difficult if there is no body, and certainly with no admissions, no confessions, or anything along those lines. And then in the pile of you just can't seem to really make this stuff up, it always gets more interesting. The next case involves an exotic dancer. She's accused of shooting her sugar daddy in the face after their relationship had ended. And apparently there was an individual by the name of Michael McNew. He was a divorced grandfather, decided to end his relationship with his dancer friend. who goes by the name of Jennifer Morrissey. So we have a case here where an individual by the name of Michael McNew, who is a grandfather, was involved in a relationship with a woman, Jennifer Morrissey, 34, who at one time was an exotic dancer. Miss Morrissey's attorney is basically asking the jury you have to just get around the fact of the age difference, whether you approved or disapproved of their particular relationship. But basically, it was self-defense, and therefore you should find her not guilty. Apparently, there was a series of contentious emails between the parties, and ultimately, Miss Morrissey drove to Mr. McNew's house and shot him in the face, and tried then to stage it to look as though it was a burglary, and actually came back with her motorcycle gang boyfriend to help set the scene up so that it would in fact look like that. And Morrissey's attorney has acknowledged that she has given several different versions of the events to several different people, but really the only one that you should consider is whether she was justified in doing so and that she was under self-defense. Apparently, Mr. McNew was apparently shot in the face when his daughter and some friends or coworker found him, and he was literally sitting in a chair looking out the window, somewhat like he was staring at the water, the river, is the way it was described. So I'm going to be following that one just because it's kind of interesting in the sense that this Miss Morrissey, thought that she could stage it to look like the scene, then comes back. You know, the old always returns to the scene of the crime. Why would they do that? Okay. And, what have we talked about today that they all kind of linked together? Okay. We got the nurse. What's going to be the linchpin killer evidence in that particular case, the convincing evidence? It's going to be DNA. All right. Not so much as it relates in the Claus matter or that of Mr. Patterson, but the disappearance in Kentucky may come down to DNA evidence, just like in the Colorado case, the Frazee case, DNA evidence. I am preparing a talk and a video about DNA. I think I can explain it in simple terms to actually understand the different types of DNA testing that they do, how they get to it, and hopefully it'll be in a simple fashion whereby everybody can enjoy it and understand it and really understand what it means when they have DNA in a particular case. Now, then we have this individual. He was convicted by a federal jury, and he is alleged to have tried to extort $500,000 and a luxury car from a businessman in Southern California. And he was asking for hush money for payments when he threatened to expose this individual's encounters and apparently his sexual orientation, which is a little odd today because does anybody really care about that anymore these days? I can't imagine. But this individual, Teofil, Teofil Brank, Brank, he was 25, and he was guilty of 6 felony counts in a scheme that targeted an individual by the name of Donald Burns, a 51-year-old businessman with waterfront estates in Palm Beach, La Jolla, and Nantucket. Now, Mr. Brank has been in federal custody since March and now looks up to facing 53 years in prison. And what happened was that Mr. Brank asked for $500,000 and a car. And then Mr. Burns gave him that $500,000 and another car, an Audi R8 worth $180,000. And then Mr. Brank couldn't be satisfied with $500,000 and a $180,000 car. You ever heard of the saying, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered? Should have just stopped while he was ahead. Well, then Mr. Brank demanded another $1 million, and he wanted an LA condo in return for this continued silence of their relationships and their contacts. And Mr. Burns basically said, hey, I don't care, and went to the authorities, and obviously it has ended the way it has. He's, like I said, nobody cares. Not anymore. So what I'd like to do now is kind of add maybe a new segment to Crime Talk. And I think we'd like to call this the Stupid Criminal Act of the Week. Okay? Because there's some things that you just cannot believe have happened. Okay? And I have told people for years that my job is secure because there will be a couple of things that always exist. Sex, people, lust, desires, they just, whatever they're going to do. There's that lust. Drugs affects people's ability to think clearly, make good decisions, and oftentimes leads to criminal conduct. And alcohol. Once again, it affects one's ability to make good decisions. So our first stupid criminal of the week is a woman by the name of Freedom Rider Zobrist, who is 38. Apparently, Miss Zobrist was causing quite a scene at a Waffle House in Florida. When Miss Zobrist was asked to leave the Waffle House, she became verbally abusive and allegedly threatened to retrieve a firearm and shoot workers at the restaurant. But would that be enough? No, you might add. No. Zobrist then pulled down her pants, exposing herself, her sexual organs, and started dancing around the parking lot. And she also then attempted to lick a man's face in the process and ultimately was arrested by the police down there. And Miss Zobrist, I'm just going to go on a limb here. I'm thinking she was probably under the influence of something that was affecting her ability to make good decisions. All right? Now, I'm not sure, but I'm going to guess this next individual also was under the influence of some alcohol when he was making some poor decisions. All right? There's a Minnesota man. His name is Jason Teets. He's 48, and once again, he was in Florida, and he liked to engage in some nude hijinks at the hotel that he was staying at, and apparently began to pleasure himself in public on the patio deck of the hotel. An employee saw him, went to the manager. The manager said, hey, you can't come up here and expose yourself, and you certainly can't come up here to pleasure yourself. You need to leave. And ultimately, the police were called, and he was arrested. Now, it turns out Mr. Teets has been having a rough go of it. This is his third arrest in recent weeks. He was arrested January for trespassing after allegedly refusing to leave a bar. I'm assuming he was intoxicated. I know I shouldn't make assumptions, but when you're asked to leave a bar, it usually means you're getting overly intoxicated and you're being a jerk. And then apparently he was also arrested in South Dakota, perhaps on his way down to Florida for once again there exposing himself and masturbating in front of children. Not smart. I don't know what this guy's issue is. I don't know if he's got mental health, if he's got a drinking problem, whatever, but somebody's going to help him solve it, and it's going to be involving some mandatory sobriety here real soon. And pleasuring yourself in front of children, people take that very seriously, and mothers of these children will hunt these people down. All right? I had a case years ago, series of exposing, it was alleged that it was one person exposing themselves all around various parks and things of that nature, and I had a client who apparently went to expose himself. When the mother started saying, "Hey, you can't do that," he left. And he also dropped his wallet. And he was ultimately charged, and coincidentally, all of the peeping Tom incidents, all of the exposing yourself incidents stopped upon his arrest. Coincidence? I think not. But everyone's given the presumption of innocence, and we'll do it at that. Now, there's another case in California which I just think is weird. So, police in California arrested a guy by the name of Roberto Arroyo, 33. And the security cameras saw him walking around this family's yard. Apparently, he stole something. He urinated or defecated in the yard as well. But what's really weird is he was going around licking doorbells. Okay? I'm not exactly sure why someone would want to lick doorbells. Once again, going back to the whole DNA thing, but that's weird. Okay? That's not normal. And Mr. Arroyo needs to get some help and needs to figure out what's wrong, because that is just not normal. Okay? But hey, we need to do it. Wasn't my client, but there's actually a diagnosis for people out there that like to eat feces. Wasn't my client. I knew somebody that did. That was his thing. Don't get it? It's weird. If people knew what the hell went on in the world, they would never leave their houses. They would stay locked up inside. Now, the final dumb criminal of the week. Once again, back to Florida. A guy by the name of Douglas Kelly. He's 50 years old. Okay? He's 50 years old, doing meth, and he thinks that his drug dealer stiffed him, sold him some bunk, fake drugs. So by God, what are you going to do about it? Not ask your fellow methamphetamine user. Oh no. You go and ask the police. You go and ask the police if you could test my meth to see if it is good meth or not. And if it was bad meth, he would like to press charges against his drug dealer for selling him bad meth. Well, needless to say, apparently there was enough methamphetamine in the meth that Mr. Kelly was arrested for possession of methamphetamine. And he is the dumb criminal of the week. A lot of these other individuals came close. They tried. It wasn't for trying, not for lack of trying, but he gets the dumb criminal of the week. To go ask the police if your illegal drugs are in fact illegal. That's stupid. And I'm going to guess that he was under the influence of drugs and or alcohol, or a combination of both. It was really affecting his ability to think clearly. So, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you watching Crime Talk. Please like the channel. Please subscribe. Please tell a friend. We appreciate it. I think we figured out our audio here, and we are going to try to bring you better quality every time. We look at the comments. Some people just aren't very nice. I get that. I have very thick skin, but we're trying to bring you something where we can talk about issues and cases with a little more insight than you're going to get on the evening news, and basically from somebody who has done this type of work for nearly 25 years and has seen all the different angles. We can argue it from the prosecution point of view because I've been a prosecutor, and I can argue it from the defense attorney point of view just as well. But the one thing is for certain, we are going to present the facts, and we will try to be fair and impartial with a little bit of commentary thrown in there just in case. So thank you for watching Crime Talk. Have a great day. Can't wait to see you again soon when we can talk about it.